So, yet another week, another new release fragrance here in 2025, and one that I wasn't really sure I was looking forward to because of the fact that it's replacing probably my favorite designer blue fragrance, which is YSLY Le Parfum, the black bottle. And so, whenever I heard about this and the fact that it's replacing that, I immediately thought, well, hopefully they're just doing a slight tweak reformulation. And if that's the case, hopefully they don't ruin it. But I'm going to go into this review, this first impression, thinking to myself that I'm going to not use it based on what I think about this. I want to separate this as its own fragrance. And then later in the video, I will do a slight comparison to let you guys know. But today we're doing my first impressions on the brand new YSLY Le Parfum 2025. So that's what we're doing today. So without further ado, let's get it. What's good, my great smelling dudes? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Randy, aka Fragrance Dude, back at you with another brand new release fragrance here in 2025. And speaking of brand new releases, if you guys are looking for a first impression of a brand new release from a big designer brand that hasn't been released, hasn't been announced, there's no notes, there's nothing, and no, it's not the Chanel or any Chanel. I will have a video for it most likely tomorrow. It should be in here tomorrow. But just wanted to let you guys know, with that said, that's not what we're talking about today. But before we get into this video, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Also hit that like, takes 2 seconds, helps me out. Comment below. Let me know if you've tried this out. I know it was just released. It's not in really many stores, but it is online right now. I got this for $130 using a coupon, but I believe it's $150. They did run out of the big bottles, or they weren't selling them yet. I'm not 100% sure. But with that said, today we're doing my first impressions of YSLY Le Parfum 2025 edition. I have all of the bottles in the line, and they're all the big ones. My favorite of which is this YSLY Le Parfum. My most worn is the EDT, just because I wore it almost every time I get out of the shower or go running or whatever it might be. And then I also, my third favorite, or I guess you could say tied for second, would be YSLY Live, but that is also discontinued. That was the European exclusive. But anyway, let's get this bad boy open. All right. So the bottle, the box, I mean, it's just a black version of the YSLY box. And this is a Le Parfum, obviously. And I got the 2 ounce. They didn't have the 3.4 ounce available. So this is what the bottle looks like, and we will compare the bottles here. This is jet black. You can see it through it only if you put a light right against it, but it's really hard to see through. This one, if you put it in the light, it does have a bluish green tint to it, but if you don't look at it, it does look pretty black in person, even if you have a light shining on it. So I do have to say, even though it's a slight bit different of a tint, it does look pretty jet black in person, so I'm happy with that because I do like the jet black bottle. And then we have the atomizer, which let me get it primed. There we go. That has a nice wide dispersal, just like all of them. YSLY atomizers have always been really nice. That smells really freaking good. Oh, you immediately smell that like juniper berry mixture, a little bit of clary sage that you get from the YSL DNA. It definitely smells like a Y. So if you're going into this thinking it's not smelling like a Y, it definitely smells like a Y. This one almost runs up the line of the a little bit closer to the EDP. I know this is perfumed by Dominique Ropion, who is the perfumer for the entire YSLY line, as well as Baby Cat and L'Homme Team, a lot of the other L'Hommes and La Nuit de L'Hommes. So he knows what he's doing with the YDNA. This one is a little bit less sweet, but as soon as you spray this on, you immediately know it's a Y. And it does have a little bit of the touch of the YSLY Le Parfum. But this is different enough, at least here in the opening, where it sets itself apart from the original Le Parfum, which doesn't make me that happy. But setting itself again, I'm going to stop doing the comparisons now versus the original Le Parfum, and I will get back to that in a little bit. But this one, semi-fruity, has a little bit of like a juniper berry, a little bit of a greenish tone. If I remember correctly, there was pine in this fragrance. It doesn't really come off directly like pine. It smells like almost a bit woody and a bit green, but underneath that YSL DNA, it's almost like if you took the Y DNA, the opening of, let's say, EDP or EDP Intense, still a little bit of like that juniper berry, apple mixture, some clary sage aromatics, and you just dialed down the sweetness a little bit, smoothened it out, made it a little bit lighter and greener. This is going to be a spring banger. Oh, this is good, man. I already know, and so I can just tell you based on this opening, I would not recommend this to somebody who has a YSL Y fragrance and they're not a big collector, because there is redundancy issues with this. But I can't really pinpoint one of the fragrances in the line and say that is directly made for spring. This one smells like it's directly made for spring while being an any season fragrance. I mean, it's a YSL Y, it's a blue fragrance, it's going to be something that you can wear in any season. But it has some different aspects to it than the other ones, where again, it's a little bit more woody. So I guess you would be going down the route of what? The EDP Intense, which if I had to pick my least favorite from the line, I know a lot of people love that and a lot of people like find it to be their least favorite. I'm one of those ones. I'm one of the ones that the EDP Intense, while the opening was one of my favorite openings from the line, the dry down, it was just very woody, aromatic, and I know a lot of people like that. And I just like the sweeter versions of the Y, and that one doesn't do it for me. And while this one doesn't do that either, I like the way that they still have a semi-fruity tone in the background that's really amping it up. And then really mixing in these greens. And when I say greens, it smells not herbaceous, not pine-ish. It just smells green. Like there's a slight greenish tone to really fit this into a more spring-centric fragrance. But clean, aromatic, green, slightly fruity in the opening. YSL Y in the background, a little bit more masculine. If anything, this is down the road of like the masculinity of the EDP Intense. But I'm not going to smell and tell. I'm going to put you guys on hold for about an hour. I'm going to get my wife's opinion. I'm going to get a little bit of a background of what the dry down smells like, and then I will come back and let you guys know what I get. So I will be right back. All right, my dudes, we are back. It is about an hour into YSL Y Le Parfum 2025. Again, it is replacing YSL Y Le Parfum. If you are, and again, I'll do the comparison real quick between these two. I will do a full comparison video in the full review. With that said, this one, it's thicker, richer, has a bit of that sweetness that comes in with the apple. You get the tonka, you get the amberwoods. That one is the night out version. And while this one, it's still sleek and it still has that night out feeling to it, this one definitely is less sweet. It's less rich. It's definitely a lighter scent, and not as far as being like lighter on the skin. I'm talking about it's just lighter and less rich than that one. Maybe a little bit more airy is the best way to put it. But the best way to really put this is that if you're looking for something like this, you're not getting it with this. Even though this does have small pieces of it. It will remind you when you first spray it on of this. But as you get to the dry down, this one starts to fade into the background because the tonka and amberwood and stuff doesn't start to come out. While you still do get an amber woody tone in this, it's a little bit more on the woody side instead of more of the ambery side like the Le Parfum. But I know a lot of people were saying that going into this that I probably wasn't going to like it that much. I actually really like this. Like if I had to choose based on this opening hour my top 3 in the line, I would still say that this one is my favorite. And then I would probably say, even though the EDT is my most worn, that's based on versatility, I would still put that at 3. But I would put this or Live at 2. Like it's that good. So really what you're looking at is, again, the opening has that fruitiness, the juniper, a little bit of an apple mixture in there, but not a heavy apple. This reminds me of a mixture between the Le Parfum in the opening and the EDP Intense opening. And then when you get to the dry down, it really works its way into more of an EDP Intense dry down mixed with the EDP dry down, while doing a little bit of its own thing. And I like it better than the EDP Intense by a mile. I like it better than the EDP by a mile because the EDP gives me a headache. That is the only one that gives me a headache, even though I still like it. But yeah, if you're looking for a more masculine version, take on that DNA, the Y DNA, while still remaining redundant. It adds in some greens. It's a little bit more woody. It's a little bit less sweet. Actually, a lot bit less sweet, especially when you get to the dry down. Still has a little bit of that ambery backbone. The Tonka is really just taken out of this, which provided that kind of sweetness and a little bit of that richness as well. But once we got an hour in, unlike the EDP Intense, which had the fruitiness in the opening, it had the sweetness in the opening, and then it dried down to the woody aromatic and kind of got rid of that sweetness almost completely. This one, it kind of keeps a little bit of that fruitiness. So it's not a sweet fragrance. It still has a bit of sweetness in it and a bit of that kind of like fruity tartness from the juniper and apple mixture. And that is staying. And that's why I really like this. And I like green fragrances a lot. I've been really coming around to a lot of green fragrances. And the green nuances that you get in the opening really do pull themselves and show their faces a little bit more in the dry down. While the pine never really comes across as pine, you can tell it's trying to do that. And it feels like it doesn't have that cooling or coniferous feeling that you get from pine. But it's almost there. And so you just get the green nuances that you get from pine mixed together with a little bit of this kind of amber wood, maybe some cedar, and then you pile that all again and you throw on the aromatics that you know from the line, the clary sage, maybe a bit of geranium. But it's a very, very good fragrance. I would give this probably an 8.5. Is it better than my 9.5? No. I still think that this one is better. But to me, I don't think that this one should have replaced this one. I think this one should have replaced the EDP Intense. To me, this is just a better, smoother version of the EDP Intense, while it's not the same. If anything, it's kind of like a mix of the EDP Intense and the EDP. That's like just not the sweetness of the EDP. I think it's a very nice fragrance. I think it does its own thing. I think it deserves a spot in the line. It's just I think that this one should have stuck. And I just hate that they didn't. I understand sales and stuff like that, but the Le Parfum is just amazing. It's the best one in the line by far. But, I mean, everybody has their own thoughts. For me, this is going to be the best spring fragrance in the line, but you can still wear it all season long. As far as their performance, I do want to say after an hour, it is staying there, but it is lighter than the Le Parfum, the original Le Parfum. So the original Le Parfum was pretty good projector. This one, I mean, it's a Y, so it's still a pretty good projector, but you can tell it's a little bit lighter. But it's nothing noticeable, so don't get your panties in an uproar about it. So overall, I'll come back with my full review in about a week or so, but I'm going to give this a thumbs up. In comparison to replacing this, I'll give it a thumbs down just because I love this so much, but that's personal bias, and so I didn't want to really have too much personal bias in this. But as far as a standalone fragrance, it's great. If you're considering it to the line and you don't collect that much, it's redundant. If you like a more masculine fragrance and you like the Y DNA, this is probably going to be your favorite. I absolutely love it. So, yeah, I'll wear it. Get some really good wears. Actually, I'll wear it today. So let's make this my scent of the day. You guys will see it as a scent of the day post. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. And I'll get my wife's opinion. I got my wife's opinion. She said that she really likes it. She said it's going to be a good spring fragrance, but obviously I'll get her opinion as the week goes on as well. So remember to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll be back with another one. Peace out.